everyone, and welcome to How to Embrace Artificial Intelligence, or AI. I'm glad you're here this morning. I know it was probably a late night for a lot of people. And did you have a good concert? Did anyone go? It was awesome. It was worth that line, huh? I didn't think I was going to get in, but made it, so yeah. Before I get started, I do want to show you this forward-looking statement, which I'm sure you've seen before. But it's especially applicable for this talk because I am going to actually be talking about some stuff that is not commercially available at this time. So it's important for you to not make any buying decisions based on anything that I might say today. But after saying that, I would like to introduce myself a little bit. And my name, again, is Sarah Morgan Nettles. I am actually work here at Salesforce as a lead technical curriculum engineer on Team Trailhead. And specifically, I do the challenges, the code for the challenges whenever you do a module on Trailhead. But I've only been here at Trailhead for about a year. Prior to that, I was an independent software developer. And before I was even a Salesforce developer, I was a Microsoft.NET developer for many years. And I was always kind of obsessed with the idea of artificial intelligence, even though it wasn't necessarily applicable in my current job. So I did a lot of research, kind of independently on my own. And I ended up writing a book back in 2005. This is it. That was released, and it was all about incorporating some of the AI-based technologies that were coming out of Microsoft at that time and putting them into kind of business, practical type of applications. And it involves speech processing and some data mining, and these were some of the products that were available at that time. And the funny thing about this book is that I actually wanted to put building AI.NET applications on the title, but my editor was like, nope, can't do that because nobody will buy it. Because at that time, AI was not really a very hot topic, even though it had been around for a while. And was being actively used. And a lot of this stuff that was included in my book, the technologies, is stuff that's applicable today. But at that time, there was more of a perception. So I just wanted to kind of tell you that, just to kind of show you how far we've come, and also to give you a little idea of my experience. But now I have a question for you guys, and that's whether or not you've ever seen any articles like this one. And this particular article came out about late 2017 on the BBC. And it was based on a report that was done by the Global McKinsey Institute that predicted very direly that there would be 800 million jobs lost by 2030 due to automation. And that's globally, the whole, world basically. But it was a pretty pessimistic view, and it spun a lot of articles. And at the same time, there was also a lot of articles like this one that were coming out. It was actually at late 2017 that this came out. And this was kind of the opposite spin on it. In this particular study, they had gone out and looked at census data since the 1890s and discovered that the jobs that were lost to technology had actually decreased and were at all-time lows just in the last 5 years. So it was a lot of conflict. And so, it'd be natural for you to kind of, if you've seen some of this stuff, to feel a little bit like this, like, okay, it's too much, make it go away. I just don't even want to hear about it anymore. But unfortunately, it's not going away. And I think I would rather you, and myself included, feel a little more like this, like, hey, I'm done with this fear thing. I'm just going to go ahead and learn more about this and get over it. Because that's really the right attitude, and I'm hoping you'll feel a little more like this today. So let's talk a little bit about what actually is artificial intelligence. The general definition of it is it involves making software or machine, if it's a robot, think and work like a human, like we do, right? And I don't know if you realize this, but it's actually been around for about 60 years. And it involves a whole bunch of different technologies and disciplines. It's not just one thing. It's not just robots. It's not just machine learning or natural language processing. Any of these terms that you may have heard, it's really all of those things. There's a lot that goes into the AI umbrella, as they like to call it. And you may not realize, but you're actually using a lot of it every day. Every time you use Siri or Amazon Alexa or even just doing a basic Google search and it types ahead for you. These are all basically incorporating AI-based technologies, and you're already using it, so it's already here. But why are we hearing so much about it? Because, I told you 13 years ago, my editor didn't even want me to mention it. Now, you're hearing about it all over the place, right? It's everywhere. Well, there's a lot of things that have changed really in the last probably 5 to 10 years that are making it a lot more applicable now. One of the biggest things is there's just a lot more data that's being captured right now. And that data is coming from all sorts of different places, mostly social media. And you're getting all of this data that's being generated, and there's just too much of it for any person or an army of people to process. So you have that. You also have processing of that data is now a lot cheaper and easier to do. I don't know if you realize this, but back in 1980, the first 1 megabyte hard drive was released by IBM, and it cost it was 550 pounds, and it cost $40,000. And now we can carry around a 1 terabyte on our smartphones, in our pockets. So it's amazing how far we've come in just a short time. There's been a lot of breakthroughs, specifically in the last 5 years, in machine learning. And these breakthroughs, a lot of them go around natural language understanding, have really accelerated what can be done in this area. So there's a lot more potential now. And honestly, we just, as customers, expect a lot more from our applications. I mean, you've heard Mark Benioff talk about the fourth industrial revolution and how, we now live in a world where our customers really expect a lot more from everything that we do. And so this is generating and driving a lot of the need for these types of applications. And it's one of the primary reasons why this is not really going to go away. But let's put this in perspective, okay? I'm not talking today about general purpose AI or really simulating or emulating a human being in the way they think and act, because that's honestly something that is a lot farther off in reality than what we're talking about today, which is basically making predictions based on the data and historical data and building models and doing machine learning. Because AI has been very successful when it's been used to solve very specific problems. And when I talk about specific problems, I mean things like a recommendation system. So like you have a bunch of purchasing data in a system and you want to make a prediction about what the customer might buy next. That's an example of a very specific problem that could be solved with machine learning right now and has been very successful. And when it has access to a lot of high quality data, and when I talk about high quality data, I'm talking about generally structured data. And when I talk about structured data, I'm talking about things like a pick list or an amount or currency, that type of thing. Where unstructured text would be whatever you have coming out of a Twitter feed or a chat post or anything like that, because it can just be free text. So when you have that structured data and it's high quality, it's been cleaned, AI can be very successful in those things. So now let's talk, because you're at a Salesforce conference, how does this relate to Salesforce? What is the value that Salesforce brings to this whole thing? Well, we have a lot of structured data that I was talking about, and that data can be very useful for those machine learning scenarios that I was describing. And we also have very specific problems that our customer have that they need to solve, like they need to make their applications more usable and more friendly. And so these are the types of things that are very good for these types of applications. And I don't know if you realize this, but we have our own research group here at Salesforce. This is them. They're a small group, and you can learn more about them from this URL, but they've done some fantastic work. They've really pioneered the field, especially in machine learning and natural language understanding. They have actually, a lot of the stuff that they have done is being incorporated in Einstein Voice, and a lot of the applications that you're seeing now in Salesforce, it's been from this group that's originated. Now, where does AI fit right now in the Salesforce portfolio? Well, it's been around for Einstein, I'm sure you've seen, right? It's been around for a couple of years now, and it's now been incorporated into a lot of the already built-in products that we have, like Sales Cloud Einstein has opportunity and lead scoring available in it. You have the Service Cloud bots, that are available now, and these can kind of automate a lot of what's being done by your service agents so that they can, instead of handling the really easy stuff, can go on and handle some of the more difficult challenges. So it can really free them up. And then you have Marketing Cloud, Community Cloud, and Commerce Cloud that have search insights and product recommendations that they can do, and that's all based on Einstein. And it's built into those cloud applications. And then Einstein Analytics, and that's very useful if you have a lot of data that you need to kind of gain some insights from and categorize successfully. And then there's Einstein Voice, which you've heard about this week, right? It's like a personal assistant. And these things are all being incorporated. But I don't know if anyone here is a developer. Do we have any developers in the audience? Okay, quite a few. Well, if you might be thinking, well, can I create my own custom AI apps? Because the AI apps that I was talking about, those are already kind of there. You're just using them, just like anything. Well, you can. We have a offering of the Einstein platform services. And right now, there's two things that are being offered through it. Einstein Vision, which offers object detection and image classification. And this is really useful if you want to build an application where, let's say you want to take a picture of a store shelf, and you want to then have that be uploaded and make some predictions of that picture, such as what products, what the quantity, where they're located on the shelf. That's the kind of application you could create with this. Then there's also Einstein Language. And this involves sentiment and intent. And basically, they have pre-trained classifiers, or you can build your own classifier. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have unstructured text in this case, and then you're going to make a prediction. Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it neutral? And this can be very useful, you can imagine, in scenarios of Service Cloud types of applications. And you're needing to take in some information that's being submitted by a customer. And you want to determine, hey, is that positive or negative? If it's negative, I need to route that to somebody and get them to take care of it. That's the kind of application you can create. So now, what areas do you need to learn about? What should you be focusing on now? Because I told you that AI covers a lot of disciplines and technologies. So what's the most important thing for you to learn about? Well, I would suggest you start by looking and focusing a lot on voice processing and really just understanding how complex human speech really is. Because once you start really looking at it and trying to analyze it, you realize it's a lot more complicated and we take it for granted. Image recognition and what goes into this, and just taking a picture like this and identifying what are the objects in that picture and what's the background. That's actually a very difficult thing to do. The thing that kind of ties those things together, that kind of the secret sauce of why those things can make predictions in voice processing and image recognition, has to do with machine learning. And machine learning is really not as difficult as you might think. It basically involves a lot of things like building models and using algorithms and making predictions. And a lot of it that goes into it is just getting the data right and then training that data and tweaking it and tweaking that algorithm. And you don't necessarily have to understand linear algebra and all these things in order to be successful with it. But there are some things you do need to learn. And if you're wanting to learn more, then I would highly suggest you go to Trailhead, because what we have here is a wonderful trail mix that is got about 15 different badges in it, and it has a lot of modules and projects that will start you off with just some artificial intelligence basics, kind of get you familiar with some of the terms that you need to know, and then go into how it's being incorporated in our products here at Salesforce. And then also, there's some projects that will walk you through how to use those APIs that I was talking about, like the Intent API and Prediction Builder. So you can get hands-on experience with doing that. And of course, if you are a developer and you want to go a little deeper and you want to start building some applications or playing with it, I suggest you go and check this out. This is a link to the Einstein Platform Developer Center that we have. And this is where you can get more information about those APIs that I was referring to and how you can start building your own applications. If you want to go even deeper, because you're just really curious about how like machine learning works, then I would suggest this wonderful course. I mean, there's a lot of courses out there, but this one I have taken myself. It's a multi-week course. It involves using Python, which is an open source, and also scikit-learn, which are both open source. And Python's a very common language used in AI-based applications. But it walks you through very easily, very understandably, how you can start getting used to all the things that are involved and what are those underlying technologies and how do you take a model and train it properly and get that data the way you need it to. And it actually involves working with a real-world corpus. It takes data from Enron, actually. And so it has some real data that it works with. So it's very interesting. I highly suggest it. To recap, I just want you to make sure you understand that AI is here. It's in everything now, and it's just going to become more and more commonly used. And so the more you know about it, the more you understand those terms and technologies that are being tossed around, the better equipped you're going to be to go back to your customers or your organization and communicate how it can really be effective for your particular company. But we're not talking about general purpose AI here. We're not talking about creating data from Star Trek or anything like that. We're just talking about solving very specific problems in your organization with some of the tools and technologies that we have. And if you're interested in learning more, highly suggest you go to Trailhead, that Platform Developer Center, and of course that course on Udacity that I referred to. And finally, I just hope that if you started out a little fearful, that maybe you're getting a little excited because, I really think this is a fantastic time to be in this world, in this technology world, because there's a lot that's happening. And even though AI has been around for 60 years, it's really starting to get its legs now. And it's going to be very interesting to find out what the kind of applications that we're going to have. So I'm very excited, and I kind of hope you guys are too. So that's all I have for today, and I just want to thank you, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be around afterwards. So thank you for coming.